Government assistance was made for white people.
Public housing in particular was created not for poor black people. It was created for poor white people. And in fact, for the first several years of public housing, people of color couldn't even get into public housing projects. They were essentially segregated by race. Only poor white folks could even live there. And then what happened is the government created some new programs under the FHA program, the VA loan program, later on the GI Bill program, which allowed those same white folks who had been poor and struggling to leave public housing and to leave urban areas and to hustle it out to the suburbs where only we could live, or to the smaller towns where only we were going to be welcome. So what's interesting is that the hood became the hood because only people of color now were allowed to live there. White folks were literally being subsidized by the government to move to the suburbs. The white middle class, and make note of this, was built by government.
Y'all tried to lie about being the biggest recipients of food stamps. And now we finding out that y'all been lying to the government, scamming all of our hard-earned tax dollars. All that talk about black people being a drain on society, when I don't see my folks up there. All that talk of being lazy and dependent on the system, when I don't see my people up there scamming the government, stealing our hard-earned tax dollars. Bro, they said this was the largest food stamp fraud ring in the nation. And I had to get a magnifying glass and zoom in just to make sure that none of my folks is up there. See, y'all love to project on us who y'all are. You said we were the biggest recipients of welfare, and the lie detector test has determined that that is a lie. You said we're mooching and leeching off of the government, when that too is a lie. And then you act like your people are so innocent and so hardworking and law-abiding citizens, when we clearly can see with our own eyes who's defrauding the government and scamming and being criminals. But I know y'all gonna ignore this, and you're gonna have some type of an excuse on why they had a reason to lie and steal and be criminals. I know how it goes.
That welfare was created for white people. I knew that it was created during the New Deal, so I did some more research because I didn't really know the whole story, and I thank you guys for responding and helping me learn stuff. So during the Great Depression is when we saw the beginning of things like Social Security, unemployment insurance. But here's the kicker. When Franklin Roosevelt built those programs, he had to make deals with Southern Democrats in Congress, the same folks who were big fans of Jim Crow, to get the support of these racist white Southern politicians. The programs were designed to exclude farm workers, domestic workers, jobs held overwhelmingly by Black, Latino, and Indigenous people. So right from the start, Black and brown families were pushed out of benefits so that white people could get them.
In America, there is a misconception about who is on welfare. Now, let me just say this. There is no one program in the United States that constitutes welfare. There are many social programs in the United States that are part of what the United States calls the social safety net, which is really not much of a safety net at all when you consider the meager benefits that people receive. So what I've decided to do is look quickly at the statistics from the last census. Now, this holds true going back, but actually in the last 20 years, it has increased. The number of people receiving public benefits of some sort or another has increased amongst one particular demographic, and that is amongst white people. 20 years ago, 61% of all the people receiving public benefits of some kind in the United States were white people. Today, or as of 2022, or as the last census, 76.2% of all the people receiving some form of public benefit were white people. And the rest were people of color, 13%, people of Asian extraction, 6%, give or take, and people of Hispanic, somewhere down in the middle there. So let's just talk about what constitutes public benefits. So I'm going to read this list here, and this is what makes up all of welfare, if you will, in the United States. Medicaid, SNAP, WIC, free or reduced price school meals, SSI, TAANF, energy aid, rental subsidies, unemployment compensation, and assorted other programs. So 40 million people in the United States live in poverty, and that number approximately is the number of people who receive public benefits of some kind. And of course that varies when you include Social Security recipients, Medicare, et cetera, which is not it's an earned benefit. So I'm going to eliminate that for the moment. So of those people, the number of people receiving public benefits, welfare, if you will, some form of social program, social safety net support, as I said, 76.2% are whites.
White Americans receive significant government aid, particularly through programs like SNAP, Medicaid, through their participation rates by various programs and demographics. Medicaid, white people made up about 40% of Medicaid. SNAP, white people made about 44% of SNAP. Housing assistance, about 3.5% of that. Wow, 44% of SNAP, 44% of housing aid, 44% of Medicaid. I mean, not housing aid, but Medicaid. So food and medicine, you guys are almost like the no one recipients in America. How much free money has white people got from the government in the last 20 years? Oh, wow.
Family. For years, the image of government aid in America has been racialized. Welfare has been framed as something other people use. Lazy people, immigrants, black communities, undocumented families. And that image didn't come from nowhere, family. It was carefully crafted through political speeches, campaign ads, news headlines, and even coded language that told one group your taxes are being stolen by them. And many white Americans they really believed it, not because they were evil family, but because repetition turns propaganda into perceived truth. Now, but here's where the shock really comes from, family. When federal and state data is actually examined across programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, disability benefits, farm subsidies, unemployment insurance, housing assistance, and even tax credits, the largest beneficiaries of government aid in raw numbers and even long-term payouts are white Americans. And so not only that, family, but much of this aid is structured in ways that don't even get labeled as welfare. It's called and benefits, it's called subsidies or even tax relief, which makes it feel respectable, invisible, and even deserved. And so Social Security alone accounts for trillions of dollars, and its primary receipts are older white Americans. Medicare follows the same pattern, family. Add in agricultural subsidies that overwhelmingly benefit white rural landowners, disaster relief that flows heavily into white majority regions, and even tax breaks that function as indirect aid, and the picture becomes impossible to ignore. Now, yet somehow, the public face of government dependency has never reflected this reality. This is where the discomfort sets in, family. Many white Americans are realizing that the system are realizing that they defended, voted for, or even accused others of abusing is one they themselves rely on, often heavily. And that realization feels like betrayal, not by minorities, but by politicians who weaponized race to distract from economic truth. And it's easier to be angry at a scapegoat than to question a system designed to benefit certain groups while convincing them that they're self-made. And let's be very clear, family, this isn't an argument against government aid. Every modern society needs social safety nets, and the issue is hypocrisy and misinformation. When aid goes to white Americans, it's framed as stability, it's framed as retirement, as recovery, or hard-earned support. When aid goes to black or brown communities, it's framed as dependency, it's framed as abuse or even proven failure. Same money, same system, completely different story. Now, what's happening now is a collective awakening, family. Some white Americans are quietly Googling, reading reports, and even realizing the talking points don't add up. Others are angry, not because the facts are wrong, family, but because the narrative they built the identity around is really collapsing. And that's why these conversations feel explosive, because once you see it, you can't really unsee it. And this moment isn't about shaming, family. It's about honesty. It's about recognizing that class has always mattered more than race. And however, race was used as the loudest distraction. And the real question going forward isn't who gets the most aid, family. It's why Americans were taught to fight each other instead of questioning how power actually works. And so, family, the shock you're seeing online isn't confusion, it's realization. And realization is always the most dangerous phase, because it changes how people vote, how people think, how people talk, and how they see themselves in the system. And whether America is ready for that reckoning or not, this is a whole different conversation.